It's 11:01 and welcome to the Voice of Laguna on an absolutely perfect Wednesday. A little bit later on tonight, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, by the way. A little later on tonight at the Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center, documentarian Doug Pagitt is presenting his new documentary, Who's the We? It's about a bicycle journey across our southern border. And on this 3,000 plus mile, 67-day journey, his encounter with communities full of people who live on the border and have true knowledge of what goes on the border. In prepping for this segment, I'll use the term that I found most fits our guest. He's a man of utter decency. We're honored to have you here, and I want to start off with this. Those that want to shut the border down claim that those who don't even want a border. What do you say to that?
Borders matter,
Right.
but walls are not necessary. Walls are not borders.
Right. And that is among the many great lies that we're being told.
Yes.
And to me, when you tell that lie, when that lie has been told of they don't belong, there's
Yes.
a sense of they don't belong. I'm sickened by that thought.
Sickened by it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, though, Ed, the truth is that the United States has long relished its commitment to immigration. We will say
Okay.
we're a nation of immigrants.
Right.
And it's true. Like, we're not an ethnic group.
Right.
We're not made up of people simply from one land. It is a melting pot of cultures and people.
I'm the first in my family to have been born in the States.
Is that so?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
yes. And I noticed from your biography you've lived in different places.
Right.
You're like Brooklyn or New York.
I
or
was
something?
born in the Bronx, lived in Las Vegas. My parents are from Argentina.
Okay.
Came here in the late 50s.
Yeah, we are the world, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're from all these places and
Right.
you live in all these places. And the United States, in bragging about our melting pot nature, which is not singular in the world, but very unique,
Right.
we've also not been good at immigration, ever.
Right.
I was born in 1966, and in my life, when I was born, people from China were not allowed to become American citizens. The Chinese Exclusion Act was still in place.
Right.
It's a little hard to imagine that we just flat out said in my lifetime, oh, if you're from there, you can never be a citizen here.
Right. Whatever happened to give us you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry, right, on the Statue of Liberty.
And it always had a little asterisk, right? So we're trying to get better at it.
Right.
But frankly, and I'll be blunt here, part of the reason I do the work that I do now and part of the reason that we did this ride is because what came to the surface in 2015 and 2016 as a part of the MAGA movement
Right.
was not us not living up to our best, but us grabbing a hold of our worst impulses.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't have to tolerate. We're never going to live up to our ideals every day in all the ways.
Right.
But we don't have to dig down so deep that we find ourselves living in ways that our grandchildren won't be proud of and our grandparents wouldn't be proud of.
Right.
And that's what it feels like we're in this moment right now. So we're in a real reconciling moment in this country. Are we going to live with our past? And are we going to live up to our future? And that's something we hope that this documentary and the ride and our overall work in our organizations are able to do.
Right. I want to recap our opening because for the podcast itself that'll air later, I wanted to reopen this, if that's okay.
Sure,
We're talking to Doug
of course.
Pagitt. Doug Pagitt is at the Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center tonight at 6:30. The documentary that you must see is Who's the We? It's a cross-country border ride of discovery. Doug is a pastor who founded Solomon's Porch in Minneapolis, where they do, it's less sermon and more dialogue.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I think is a fantastic idea. If I may, and you mentioned it brilliantly so, thank you, since 2015, really since 2008 and 9, when President Barack Obama was in office, the lie was told that he was from somewhere else and didn't belong,
Yes.
was the other.
Yeah.
And somehow American Christians grabbed that.
Yeah.
And are you saddened by the fact that so many Christians can support those thoughts?
I run an organization that works in the intersection of faith and politics, and I do that now because of what happened with Donald Trump and the support that he received from evangelicals and Catholics in the United States.
Right.
It stunned me, it disappointed me,
Right.
and frankly, it shocked me.
Right.
I've been a pastor in the evangelical world.
Right.
A lot of people don't even know that in the evangelical sector of Christianity, there's a progressive wing.
Right.
I like to joke, maybe we could all fit in a public bus, but there is a
I'm discovering that for the first time.
There
yeah.
is a progressive wing.
Right.
I sometimes say to people, I'm the Jimmy Carter evangelical type.
Okay.
Because frankly,
Yeah.
back in 1976,
Right.
63% of white evangelicals voted for Jimmy Carter for president.
Right. A very decent human being, and to the core, what it's supposed to be.
A Democrat from Georgia who called himself, then the language was a born-again evangelical, 63%.
Right.
By the time the election took place in 2016, where I was heavily supporting Hillary Clinton,
Right.
she received 16% of evangelicals. So something changed in 40 years to go from 63% to 16%. I've been very interested in reversing that trend. Not in order to save Christianity or evangelicalism or anything, but because evangelicals are a huge population center
Right.
and they over-index in elections. So we do a lot of work to help move those voting bases in places where it matters most to be sure that we get something closer to the true representation of what this country needs. But frankly, in July, truly in July of 2016, evangelicals had not yet fully gone for Trump.
Right.
And when they did, that broke my heart, shocked me. And election night, 3 a.m. the next morning, as I walked up to go to bed, I thought, well, that's going to change the direction of the rest of my work life.
Right.
And it has. So it's led me into working in lots of places and lots of areas and doing many things around politics. But immigration, as it turns out, is one of the areas where Republicans as a whole and religious Republicans really differ with the MAGA movement. They don't agree that we should have mass deportations.
Right.
They don't agree that they're sending their worst and their
Right.
rapists and all
Right.
this. Because frankly, they're people that pay attention to the world and they know that's not how it is.
Right.
So this lie that keeps being funded by their vote is not something that they agree with. So we're trying to help people connect closer to the issues of immigration as well as common decency and help that move happen. And I'm from Minneapolis, where the federal government sent masked armed agents into our city
Right.
in January and shot and killed our citizens.
Right.
So we had to rally up to fend off a federal incursion of masked armed agents.
I'm curious because you mentioned the incredible change from the time from Jimmy Carter to 2016 and Hillary. Why the change? What changed?
Well, Republicans got better at reaching out to those voters,
It was a
and
messaging
Democrats
thing.
got less interested in reaching out to those voters.
Right.
And so the organization that I run, one of them is called Vote Common Good, and we're sort of a dating service between the Democratic Party and candidates and religious voters. And we work on both sides. So we work with the party, we work with candidates, we try to help them. And frankly, it comes down to, it'd be shocking to a lot of people, but 6 magic words from Democrats to religious people. I like you and we need you.
Right.
And frankly, Democrats could say that to a lot more people than they do.
Right.
We like you and we really need you in this movement and we need you in this. So that's the kind of work that we do.
Okay. And is indecency or the indecency that you see or that maybe some of the stories that you heard about from families at the border, is this a learned behavior or environmental, or is it genetic?
The indecency?
Yes,
or,
the indecency.
The first thing everyone has to do when they're going to be indecent to another person is to determine that that person doesn't deserve your dignity, that they're not really like you, that they're just different enough, that they're not us. And that's how it starts. And as soon as we end up with a they and a them rather than a you,
Right.
when you're talking
Us.
about rather than to people,
Right.
you can easily start to think, well, those people are just dangerous or crazy.
Right.
I mean, look, I know a lot of people who, because of the harmful decisions of politics and this MAGA movement, have really broken themselves off from anybody who would ever vote for those folks. And I understand it. I feel it too. But it tears apart our families.
Right.
But it's really easy to think, I don't even know who those people are that would ever vote for that guy.
Right.
And we can sort of turn our eyes to, they must be crazy, selfish, racist. We can apply a whole lot of motives to behaviors.
Right.
That's the same thing that happens whenever you're isolating someone. So what has happened is that common decent people have not stood up when someone says something, and I can barely say it without having to mock with laughter how absurd it is. When the former president of the United States, running to be president of the United States, said the Haitian immigrants are eating our dogs.
Right.
In Ohio.
Right.
And Kamala Harris, you remember, laughed at that.
Right.
People were just like, okay, I even thought, okay, that's it. You know, it was like it was like the recording of Trump on the bus talking about how he sexually assaults women. I thought, well, that's going to be the turn away.
Right. But it wasn't.
But it wasn't enough.
Right.
It wasn't enough. So what we've realized is that people not only need to be repulsed from what they're hearing, but they need to be invited into something else. And that's where this documentary comes in, a lot of our other work. We're trying to invite people to leave that behind and step over a threshold into another way of understanding.
Is there a shame that comes with, for instance, the Mike Pences of the world, who he knows better?
Yes.
He knows better. And now he's out selling a book. And in the sale of the book, he still does not want to offend that voter. And the members of Congress, the Mike Johnsons of the world, who know better.
Yes.
That to me is even a greater indecency, because they have power, they have a voice, and they won't stand up.
Yeah, it is. Look, the lack of conscience and the lack of willingness to just be truthful.
Right.
Just be truthful seems unreasonably lacking. Right. But here's what we know. We do a lot of research and polling, and we talk to people. We travel the country. We travel around in buses. We're on the move all the time. And so we're meeting people. And so we did a big poll for voters who voted for Trump at one point and then were not going to. And we wanted to know what changed you. Right. And we did these long interviews. In 2020, we actually did a version of this that we called Hindsight 2020, which we thought was pretty clever.
It is good.
People had voted for him in 2016 and weren't in 2020. What happened? What made the move?
Right.
The number one issue that caused somebody to stop being committed to the MAGA movement was the lack of kindness. Right. I was so heartened by that, because you could think that kindness, decency are the kinds of soft issues that really don't win anyone over. Right. But they do.
They really do. Yeah.
Kindness and goodness. And if you come from the Christian tradition I come from, there's a whole litany of words that go there: kindness and gentleness and self-control and decency and
giving.
And all these things are the fruit of the idea that you have the Spirit of God in you. And that lack of kindness and lack of decency is what makes people leave. But then it was interesting. We asked people, tell us your story. How did you change? How did you go from feeling a part of one movement to another? And really, politics is about identity. It's not about policy. It's not even about the candidate. People vote for candidates because the candidate makes them feel like they're a good person. Right. We all do it.
Right.
So you just have to know that's part of the equation here, right? Does that person make me feel like I'm a good person if I align with them? And when people don't, they go through a political identity crisis. And when people are in that moment of an identity crisis, we've asked them, what moved you? The thing that was most common amongst all the conversations, people would mention documentaries. And it wouldn't even be about politics. It would be like, I remember one particular where the person said, I was watching that documentary. Remember, it was about like the fishing industry, the deep sea fishing industry in Japan, and they'd caught all those dolphins, and how we have to stop. We have to like change our view of tuna because
it was the rounding up of the dolphins in the Japanese cove. It was the cove.
The cove.
Yeah.
He talked about that and said, and that caused me, and then he connected somehow that change gave him permission to make another change. And we started to realize documentaries do a thing. I think it's because you get close. It's a version of proximity. But also, unlike tonight, which we'll do, this is Wednesday, which we'll do this over at the Cultural Center, a live screening of this. Most people watch documentaries at home. Yeah. They're on their couch.
Yeah.
They've got their screen. Maybe it's on their lap or it's their own television. They're in their comfortable clothes. They're relaxed and they feel like they can open up a little bit.
Right.
And one of the things that happens in politics is that politics happens in public or happens with strangers. And we all get a little concerned. We all put on a different us.
Right.
You let all that down. You're at home. You're on your couch. You're listening to something. Podcasts are the same way.
Right.
Frankly, radio.
Right. Yeah.
The reason I've loved radio is where do most people listen to the radio? In their kitchens or their cars?
Right.
You get in your car and that's your place, right? And you're alone and you get to tune into what you want to tune into and it becomes your thing. That feels different than politics, which is always putting a demand on you. Somebody's always, God loves you and I have a wonderful plan for your life, right? Everybody's got a plan for what you need to do this. And I work in politics. We do that too. We want people to turn out and vote and all. But that's not documentaries or even podcasts.
Right.
That stuff gets a little closer. And so we know that the mechanism and the medium of getting people close. So when we rode our bicycles, part of the reason we rode our bikes from San Diego to St. Augustine is because both of those places in the history of America have been immigrant populations.
Right.
They're both named for saints,
Right.
which is good for a religious group that's gonna, call me with it. But we also wanted to be close. We wanted to feel the air. We wanted to look out in the desert. We wanted to feel the road. We wanted to feel the wind and the heat. We knew that people were going to be walking through the desert along our side or crossing the rivers in Texas.
Right.
And we wanted to be as close to that and move as slowly as we could
Right.
and still keep moving. Then we crossed the border every chance we could in these border towns. And we met the people living on both sides. We met people living in resettlement camps, met people living in the Remain in Mexico camps. We heard their stories. We interviewed people. We talked to Border Patrol. We talked to people who live in the towns. We talked to everyone. And here's the thing, Ed, no one living close to the border or Border Patrol thinks that the border wall or even our border immigration practices
Right.
of protection is a good thing, and they don't think it works. None of them,
Not even the Border Patrol.
especially not Border Patrol.
Okay.
Border Patrol chief said to me, there's only two groups who love our border policies. This is a Border Patrol agent.
Right.
Two that love our border policies, Republicans and the Mexican drug human trafficking cartels.
Right.
Because our border policies have made the cartels wealthy beyond their imaginations. Because we think it's about drugs. It's not about drugs. It's about human trafficking coming in and guns going out. What the cartels do on the Mexican side of the border is they don't traffic in U.S. dollars. They traffic in U.S. weapons. That's why they're armed to the hilt. They're not making guns in Mexico because they're not allowed to make guns in Mexico.
Right.
They use their northern outsourced gun manufacturers and the NRA to support the drug cartels and human trafficking cartels. And our border policies are what are necessary. If we changed our border policies and made it more possible for people to naturally come and go in a way that was reasonable, and you checked everybody, and we didn't have quota systems that prevented people from coming in,
Right.
they wouldn't have anyone to traffic.
Right.
Look, there's not that many criminals in the world. Criminals are always a small member of the population.
It's math. It's
It's math.
basic math at that point. So I'm curious as to geographically, as you traveled from here in Southern California border all the way to St. Augustine, Florida, how were you received the same by some of the Southern communities?
Okay, so that gets really interesting. Once we stopped the Mexico-U.S. border, which was down to McAllen, Texas, and Brownsville,
Right.
then we were on the coast.
Right.
Then you're in Texas along the coast.
Right.
Then you're in Louisiana.
Right.
You're in Alabama,
Right.
Mississippi, Florida. And you might think that down around there, well, now you're going to get this Southern Texas
Right.
political thing.
Right. The Confederate flag group.
The Confederate flag group. As it turns out, the people that live on the border of the coast,
Right.
because it's a border,
Right.
they also feel outside of America. The thing that was true about everyone that lived within 50 miles of the border, whether it was people in Southern California, in New Mexico, in Arizona, in Texas, or any of those other states, If you live within 50 miles of the U.S. Mexico border and that's your identity, you don't feel like the rest of the country. You feel like you're misunderstood. The number one thing everyone along that stretch, even people not on the border, said to us when we said, we want to know, we want to hear from you. What should we tell people in the rest of the country about what life is like here? They would always say, ask them to stop lying about us.
There you go.
I would call it slander.
Right.
Stop slandering us.
Right.
Tell the truth about what happens here. Tell people to come, and have them come not just when they want to go on vacation. This is a real life. We actually live here. And I will tell you, there are people along that Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida portion that they didn't agree with us politically, but they agreed with us on immigration.
Right.
And they were the kindest people. They helped us over and over, because if you feel slightly outside the norm in the United States and you watch the majority of the United States take advantage of those that are outside, you start to feel how vulnerable you are. People that live on the edges and the borders always feel vulnerable. They don't know where home is.
Was that a surprise to you?
Totally shocking.
Okay.
Totally shocking. I thought we would get down there, and because I'd heard it over and over and over that, oh, the people who live closest to the border, they are the ones who are most, stressed by this.
Right.
What was being talked about is this terrible immigration surge.
Right.
They're like, this is our community.
Right.
We know who these people are. They're coming and going. People have been crossing this border for 500 years.
Right.
We know how to do this. The crime rates are lowest along the border. Crime rates in the United States are lowest in places where the immigrant populations are the highest.
Right.
Even people who are not in the country with legal authorization, those places have the lowest crime rates. If you want to go somewhere where your crime is going to be low, find places with the highest immigrant populations. That blows people's mind, and I promise you, someone is turning on their Chat GPT right now to see if that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
happening. Have at it, please.
At
Yeah. This weakness from Republican politicians, this failure to look evil in the eye and confront it.
Yeah.
Will that change when Trump's gone, or is that already a snowball that started rolling and we can't stop it yet?
I think it will change. Look, I think that man is a unique character. I think it's not just a MAGA movement. I think it's a maniacal cult. So I think people are following his lead and his bizarre emotional swings.
I'm reading a text on the Text Connect from Dallas, calls him the Antichrist.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, there you go. I think they nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, we to that point, we don't use that phrase, but I guess we should. We have a billboard campaign called His Words Matter,
right.
And we run them around the country, and it's a quote from Jesus on one side, like turn the other cheek, and then a quote from Trump on the other side, like I want to punch him in the face. And it's called His Words Matter. So you sort of see what's the Christ and what's the anti-version of
brilliant campaign.
And it's easy to do, right?
Because
Jesus is on record, and so is the other guy.
There's a lot to
so
choose
it's
from.
Easy to find.
Right.
But look, Democrats have a hard time speaking truth to our own party.
Right.
Republicans have a hard time speaking truth to their own party. And all the rest of us need to give all politicians more courage to speak truth.
Right.
Now, I'm not doing both ands or same-isms or any of that, because it's not. I work with a lot of politicians, and politicians, they're just normal people, except one, who, to quote Megyn Kelly, can't he just be normal? I'm so sick of this shit, right? Can't he just be a normal human being? Most of them are just normal people who are trying to figure out how to get along and keep it all together, and the cost of breaking from the pack is high. So our job as the citizenry is to give courage to all politicians who will name the truth and name the common good and speak out even when it's against their own party, if that's necessary. And Republicans are a target-rich environment for that.
So I opened the conversation with you by saying how incredibly decent you are and how much I admired the decency of having studied you. Isn't it just that simple? It takes just the decency in someone.
Yeah.
And if you've lost your way and you follow an indecent person simply for political gain,
Yeah.
where are you at that point?
You know, I'm going to misquote Mr. Rogers, which my wife won't like. She's a big fan.
I
But
am too.
he has a famous phrase that goes something like, if you ever knew someone's full story, you couldn't help but love them with your whole heart. Something like that.
Fred Rogers was amazing.
That's really true. I mean, that's deep empathy.
Right.
That's deep understanding. When we have a shortage of love and we treat love like it's scarcity,
Right.
like I can't give it out too freely, we're going to end up in trouble if we are rationing our love. Now, if I heard from these Republican candidates, Republican representatives, even Republican MAGA voters, I am heartbroken that we can't have these immigrants in our country, or I'm heartbroken that we can't find a way to include trans kids in our culture.
Right.
It breaks my heart. I nearly cry at night when I go to sleep thinking about it, but we just can't. And they really just believed, I want it, but we can't.
Right.
The thing is, they don't want it. So when someone says we can't, they're like, good, that reinforces what I already don't want.
Right.
Right. So the way we test our love is, do we want what our opponent, the person we differ with, what they want? And if you don't want for them what you want for yourself,
Right.
I mean, it's going to sound a little familiar preachy from a preacher, like love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
But if you don't want for the other what you want for yourself, then that's the core of decency, right? And you don't have to. And frankly, I'll do a little Bible exegesis here for you. Jesus didn't come up with that. That was a truthism that was around in Jesus's day. And it was a truthism that was even around when the time of the Jewish scriptures being written. It's been a human knowledge thing. And so when someone refrains that, and however a tradition or a person reframes it, and, you know, in humanist, atheist world, it's called human reciprocity.
Right.
When you do reciprocity and you treat people equally and fairly based on how you would want it to go, that's the decency. And if we check ourselves based on that, a lot of people who want us to have a better immigration policy in the United States also believe the country is full. I promise you, I've driven around a lot of it. I biked across a portion of it. I flew over a lot of it.
Right.
We're not full.
Not even close.
We're not full.
Not even
And
close.
if you believe in growing economies, the one thing that grows an economy is more participants in the economy.
Right.
So if you want to take the economic route, you're going to want more people and more immigration. If you're going to want the inclusion of what's the American dream, you're going to want that. If you want cities to expand, if you want small communities to be revitalized, you're going to want more people. And what we have in the United States is a declining birth rate.
Right. And an aging population.
It's not going well.
Right.
So if we want a country that has a rich fabric, now the MAGA movement, and look, J.D. Vance is running for president.
Right.
He has a new book out, and he's basically arguing, I want people like me, certain kinds of Christians that he's a new convert to.
Right.
I want those people just to make more babies. Now, I don't know if he understands math either. I'm guessing maybe
He doesn't.
it comes harder.
He doesn't.
One person making 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time is not how you're going to, I mean, that's going to take a long time. We have trends that have been on population decline for decades. You're not going to change that in short order.
So let's talk for a moment. The two parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, and the Republicans have been very successful at delivering whatever evil message it is.
Yep.
They are successful at delivering it to those that will listen.
Yep.
Democrats less so, with a message that is more inclusive. And do Democrats need to be meaner, tougher? Are we missing an opportunity?
They need to be more truthful and more direct.
Okay.
Here's what I would say. So because we worked really hard with the Biden administration, with the Biden campaign team in 2020,
Right.
for him to get elected, we were, and all administrations do this, the people who work with them, these nonprofit groups and people that represent communities, they get invited to these briefings all through the administration. So I was on a briefing about immigration. Where the idea to ride our bicycles across the country and make a documentary about the border came from was on Thursday after Inauguration Day. I was on a call, the White House.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Right.
I was really glad. And they said, we want to, and I remember this so distinctly because it was such sort of corporate speak, we want to level set, which kind of means we want to manage your expectations.
Right.
The president signed an executive order on 3 immigration-related things, related to Dreamers and related to TPT and one other thing. And then the person said, and I know a lot of you want us to do more on immigration, but you just need to know that's what we're going to do. That's it. And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So we're working with Democratic candidates then running for office. We're talking to all these candidates about the border, about immigration policy. They don't want to talk about it. We interview current congressional members and people running for office on our podcast. We'll have these great, robust, very wonderful conversations. We love these candidates. We work for them. We work with them. We're committed to them. As soon as I bring up immigration, they click into, we believe that we should have secure borders and we need to, who's talking right now? What's going on? The countenance changes, the temperament changes, the tone changes. I'm like, what do you think? And here's the thing. Democrats don't know how to think about immigration. They haven't spent time thinking about it. Then Trump comes swooping in and he had a thing he thinks and he just downloads that into everybody. And next thing you know, the worst impulses of our society. So what we need our Democratic politicians to do, and anyone who ever talks to a Democratic politician, is say, what do you think about our immigration policy and what are your suggestions for what we should do about it? And if they don't know, a member of Congress, a Democrat from El Paso, Veronica Escobar, has, since she was elected to Congress in 2016, has been putting forth the bill that we should pass. And it never gets a calling. It never gets voted on. And that thing that was going to be passed a while ago, it's not the right one. There are answers to what we should do. And I'll just say one of them is we should move immigration of refugees, that category, out of Homeland Security and into Health and Human Services.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, because Homeland Security are the people with guns.
Right.
Health and Human Services are the people with
the hearts.
Right. And stethoscopes.
Right.
Am I saying that right?
Stethoscopes.
Thank you. Stethoscopes, not telescopes. And they're the ones who are thinking about how are you doing and what do we need to do to bring you into the country. We could do a lot of things about how many immigration judges we have. We need 1,000 times as many as there are. And there's a lot of ways to get there. There's a lot of retired judges that would love to come in 3 days a week and just do immigration. There are answers to these problems because, look, immigration is not a force of nature that we have to contend with. They are choices and policies that we've made. And if we made them, we can change them. And they can be changed. And on this one, the answers exist. To be blunt, immigration is complicated, but you know what's more complicated? Going to Mars.
There you go. Thank you.
And I'm watching a bunch of a 1 trillionaire and a bunch of billionaires figure out how to go to Mars.
Right.
You know what's not that complicated? An immigration system. Can we just please
I knew I was going to love
figure
this
this
conversation.
out? It is so... What do? We do hard things. We do revolutionary things in this country that we are still encumbered by this nonsense and the belief that they're eating our dogs.
Right. Because we've dumbed down. We've allowed ourselves to dumb down.
Yes. And Democrats need to smarten up.
Right.
In other words, know more, say more, speak out more.
Right.
But I'll also say this because it's just truth. In the immigration communities, the people who work on immigration in the United States and with immigrants who are currently in the United States and their status are often different groups, organizations, and have a different agenda than people who work on the border with the question of who's allowed to come into the country. Those two groups also don't get along. There's a lot of friction and factions in the immigration communities. So the immigration organizations like we are that work on this, we all have to work to bridge gaps that exist inside the pro-immigration communities. There's a lot of work to do in this country.
is some of that work, and I've long advocated for a Project 2028. And part of that Project 2028 for me, you mentioned how Border Patrol doesn't see the border the way the administration really does. ICE. Eliminate ICE. Is that because you were in Minneapolis during the murders of those two people?
Yeah, I stood out and yelled at ICE agents.
Right,
And
and they see things there. That's a different. That's a brown shirt for all intent and purposes.
for sure. And look, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE,
Right.
was created as a ramification of Homeland Security taking over Border Patrol.
Right. After the towers fell down.
After
Right.
yeah, all the responses where
Right.
we said, what in the world happened on September 11th,
Right.
2001, we reorganized our response at a federal level.
Right.
That gave us a newly constituted in-nation police forces
Right.
across the board, including ICE.
It gave us a hubris. It gave us the ability to completely control something
totally.
that was segmented before.
Totally.
Right.
And it started that whole operation started to spend a lot of money around the border.
Right.
Really started with President Clinton, though. President Clinton really fast-tracked the building of the border wall and infrastructure building and people going to the border. So much so that many border communities' economy is based on ICE and Border Patrol.
Right.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol, which are two different groups.
Right.
On our bike ride, sometimes people would be with us and we would have to rent some hotel rooms for people to stay in. Some of us just stayed in tents or an RV that we had, but people would come. We go to like these Hampton Inns,
Right.
and be like, hey, can we, are there rooms? They're like, we're sold out. Be like, you're sold out? How are you sold out? And they said, oh, ICE and Homeland Security have booked these hotels for months on end.
So
Other places, $300 a night for a little roadside inn hotel because Homeland Security has built it out. And then the cafes and then the stores. And so now what we have along the border, truthfully, is 25 years of federal government investments into contractors and police level enforcement.
Right.
We can't just get rid of that.
Right.
So we have to rework it.
Okay.
We have to reassign their duty. ICE agents and Border Patrol agents save immigrants' lives on the border all the time because of our border policy, people have to cross through the desert. It's a thing that's referred to in Border Patrol wording as deterrence.
Right.
They've made the desert so deadly that if anyone tries to cross there, there's a great likelihood that they will die or suffer in the desert.
Right.
So Border Patrol is going out saving these people all the time.
Right.
When you ask them what they do, they say, we save migrants from dying in the desert. That's not ICE.
Right.
That's Border Patrol. Now, I'm not a big fan of what Border Patrol has happened under the Trump administration, the people that they brought in, because leadership is telling them to become cowboys and become cruel, pulled them out of the border areas and put them into cities in America.
Put
and
incompetence in charge of them at one point that he's now since resigned.
Yes,
Right.
in shame.
Right. The guy with the Nazi jacket.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Nazi
Bovino.
coat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was walking our streets with this, and he literally bought tall boots. He bought black boots that went up to his knees.
Right. Jack-booted thug.
Jack-booted thug. Like,
Right.
is that an accident? Did you have to hunt around to find the tall black boots while you were strutting around as a small man in our
Not an
American
Amazon.
cities?
It's not an Amazon buy.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
The cosplay level that's so dangerous of this crowd is beyond belief. We have to fundamentally change what Immigration and Customs Enforcement is doing. And what they should be doing is this: checking every truck and every car for drugs, human smuggling, and guns. Every car going into Mexico, every truck going into Mexico, every truck coming into Mexico, every car coming into Mexico. Because Border Patrol will tell you right now that 93% of all the drugs that they confiscate are in private vehicles. And here's how it works. A college kid is approached by somebody in a southern border community, maybe even all the way up into maybe this area.
Right.
We're going to ask you to drive down to the border. Then we're going to pay you $3,000 to use your car for 3 hours. leave it here. They drive it into Mexico where no one checks you.
Right.
They then drive it with a Mexican person who can be in the United States back in, and they loaded the thing up with guns and drove it into Mexico, and they loaded the trunk with drugs and drove it back into the United States. That's what they're doing. And Border Patrol knows it. That's why they check 10% of the cars. If we said fentanyl is so dangerous, remember when this administration was about fentanyl?
Right.
When was the last time you heard about fentanyl?
It's been since the Epstein files.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
If fentanyl was that much of a danger to the United States, what would we do? We wouldn't say shut down human legal immigration. We would say shut down the traffic crossing the border.
Right.
So we met a person. We're taking a little detour, a little rest break, and we're just sitting there on our bikes. We're like 8 or 9 of us, and this guy pulled over and goes, "Hey, you guys are on your bikes? What you doing?" And we said, "Oh, we're biking across the country." And he goes, "Oh, that's great. I do this." We said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I run a contractor company that works for Border Patrol, and we're hired to search the trucks. We searched 10% of the trucks." And we said, "How do you think we could stop illegal drugs coming in?" He said, "Technology to allow us to search 90% of the trucks." Right. And we said, "Well, what technology is that?" He said, "It already exists."
Of course it does.
Our company could use it. He said, "We might go out of business because we basically get guys with mirrors to go under trucks and look around with mirrors. Right. But there is technology that can scan everything in these trucks." Right. This is a person whose job for 25 years has been to search trucks. And he's like, "We should search 90%.
Instead, we're searching 10.
10. Yeah. So if we wanted to redeploy all the money and all the ice to not chase people around on Minneapolis streets or at the day laborer stop right up the road from Laguna Beach that we drove by, and I looked over and there were 6 people out there, and I'd imagine other times there's 60 people out there. Right. Instead of chasing those people out of doing good day labor work, maybe we'd check the trucks that actually are bringing in the drugs and the cars and trucks that are taking the guns out and the human trafficking. Because let me just ask you, you're probably not a drug dealer, but if you were a drug dealer, would you put your highest value commodity in the backpack of a guy that you're going to send to walk 50 miles through a desert with no water?
Not a chance.
Who drug traffics through the desert in the backpacks of immigrants? It's so absurd. It's hard to even argue with.
Before we close, and I'll close with the documentary tonight at 6:30 at the Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center. Will I see your name on a ballot somewhere?
You will not see my name on a ballot anytime soon.
This is the type of representation that we need.
Yeah.
So no, that's a no. That's a hard no for you.
Well,
running for any particular office or any kind of office.
Yeah, I mean,
can you do more good this way?
I don't know. I don't know how much good I can do. I just know there's different skill sets and roles for different jobs.
Right. Okay.
There's, if somebody wants me to be president, I'd be glad to be president because apparently you can play golf, you can sit around, and you can just worry about the curtains, and you can worry about the swimming pool. So that doesn't seem like a hard job.
Right.
But now there are people well equipped to be representatives.
Right.
But they're not all currently our representatives. And the best way to change policy is to change policymakers. So there are people ready and prepared to run for office, and we should do a grand swap out whenever possible. That's why we have elections as often as we do, which I know to a lot of us feels like it's too often, too many, and we talk politics too much, but we could make some swaps.
Brilliantly stated. Before we go, I want first of all, Southern California to know that tonight is Who's the We? It's America's immigration struggle. It takes place at Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center at 6:30. We're firing off the film. Doug Pagitt is the creative and inventive mind behind this. Is there another documentary that you're working on?
Yeah, let me mention this. who'sthewe.org is where you can find the site. You can watch a trailer. They can see that. It's also going to be a 1-hour version of the 90-minute documentary will be on PBS starting in August.
Okay.
So people can watch that version on the PBS app. They can watch it on PBS.com or in their local PBS station. And if anybody here listens to or watches PBS, if you're listeners, reach out to your local station and tell them that this is now something that they can put into their
queue.
Their queue to start to have in their on their local stations. And we're really excited about that because people that are movable politically, there's 2 things that are true about their information. They don't get it from social media, and they don't get it from cable news.
Right.
So you have to find them in other places. And it's radio, it's podcasts, it's documentaries, and it's local news. Local news, and the PBS channel for most people counts as local news. 63% of all people that watch PBS, local PBS, are registered Republicans that lean conservative. Who knew?
That's surprising.
They're not the donors,
Right.
but they are the viewers, as it turns out. So it's an audience worth engaging with.
Right. And are you working on another project?
We're actually working on a documentary that it's going to have another ride part of it. It's going to map the Freedom Ride from 1961.
Right.
So we're going to start in buses and go from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans, tracking the same route of the Freedom Riders. And as it turns out, the same places where we saw voting rights that needed to be changed in 1961 and then ultimately were changed in 1965 are the same places where those were rolled back. So we can literally ride with some of the Freedom Riders on the same route to the same places and make the same arguments as 1961. And that is heartbreaking.
It's Who's the We, Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center tonight at 6:30. Doug Pagitt, I'll close it the way I opened it. Utterly decent person. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Ed. And thanks for this great station. If people don't know what this is, they should look it up. It's amazing. Congratulations to you.
And whatever you need, whenever you need it, please come on back. All right.
We'll take that as a standing invitation.
Yeah, it is. 11:49 the time. It's the Mornings with Ed show, and it's the all-new Voice of Laguna.